New York has more skyscrapers than Beijing, Seoul, and Toronto combined. Only two cities in the world, Shenzhen and Hong Kong, have more. You could say Manhattan's bursting with buildings. In fact, it's so full, there's barely space left to build. So when developers wanted to create something new, they had to get wildly creative. And the result? One of the most daring skyscrapers ever attempted. A pair of leaning towers, twisted at the hip, with a moving skybridge between them. This is the story of the American Copper Building. Skyscrapers aren't just icons. In New York, they're economic engines. Every inch of Manhattan is valuable. Land here goes for over $2,500 per square foot. So when a developer looked at a strange, narrow site by the East River, wedged between an existing building, a future school, and protected parkland, they saw opportunity. There wasn't enough room to build one tower, let alone two. But rather than divide the plot, they did something no one had ever tried before. They bent two skyscrapers towards each other, joining them with a skybridge in the middle, creating what is essentially one building, warped into shape. New York was the first U.S. city to implement zoning laws back in 1916. These rules help manage the city's density, ensuring access to light, air, and green space. By 1961, NYC zoning introduced a new concept, floor area ratio, or FAR, which governs how dense buildings can be and where they can go. On the American Copper site, zoning constraints were fierce. One side of the site was locked in as parkland. Another was reserved for a public school. That left just two awkward slivers on either side, far apart and diagonally misaligned. The original plan? Two towers, but the developers wanted one building with shared amenities. Changing the zoning would take years, so instead, they brought in shop architects and asked for the impossible. I led the design for the American Copper Building. There were two separate buildable zones, and we wanted one tower. So we started throwing out wild ideas. One of them stuck. What if we connect the two buildings with a bridge and lean them into each other? Now here's where things get truly insane. Bridges between skyscrapers haven't been done in NYC in decades. Add to that, one tower had to bend northwest, the other southeast, just to avoid crossing over the school's playground, which legally couldn't be overshadowed. So the skybridge had to thread the needle, missing the schoolyard, navigating between tilted towers, and attaching just enough to keep it stable.